Welcome back to another episode of the Live 4D Now podcast, where we help you align body, mind, soul, and spirit to help you move from surviving to thriving. And today, Tammy will be speaking with a powerhouse coach who's redefining what productivity looks like, especially for women that are maybe wired a little bit differently. So Niki Marshall is a certified neurodiversity and productivity coach who specializes in helping women ditch some of the chaos, reset their minds or their mindset, and finally create systems that actually support their lives, not control them. And so this episode is for every woman who's ever felt that she's too much or not enough and is ready to get real, get organized, and to get her life back. Let's dive in.
Okay, so today we're here with Nikki, and her tagline is becoming productive and organized can be fun with the right mindset. Now that's such a fresh take, firstly, and something I struggle with. So where did that idea come from in your own journey?
Probably from the insanity that I hold inside me. No, I'm kidding. So I'm diagnosed ADHD, and I was diagnosed late in life, but it's something that I've always struggled with. You know, on the one hand, I have the need to be organized. I'm terrified I'm going to forget something, so I have like endless to-do lists and so on and so forth. A lot of the time, I spend so much time planning that I actually don't do the thing. So that's the other side of it as well. But it was boring. I mean, I was like, come on, it's just looking at a to-do list. Seriously, that's not going to do it for me. Everybody has a different way of looking at it, though. But for me, I like things pretty. I'm a girly girl, and so I am a creative person, and I came up with a way, and I found a community online with this, by the way, but of very attractive, pretty planning. I am a paper planner, but can be done digitally, virtually, in your head. No, not in your head. But there has to be enough white space for me to actually be able to plan. That was the one aspect of it. Then my perfectionism tendencies came up, and I had to get over that, because otherwise nothing is going to get done. So the huge part of being productive is basically not aiming for perfection, because let's face it, it doesn't exist. And when you realize that, it's just setting the bar of you're good enough. So together with that, and making the sort of environment, whether it be a digital planner, whether it's a paper planner, whether it's, you know, people do plan very successfully on Post-it notes. I don't know how they do that, but they do. But having it so that you have got a place where all of your thoughts and your notes and your tasks and your everything is contained, and it is an attractive place that you actually want to be in, with enough white space to make mistakes, is kind of the thing. And it does become fun. So, you know, I have got people that I've worked with who are digital planners. And that's fine. You know, however you put your thoughts down is really, really fine. But it's finding the sweet spot of a person. It's what makes them want to be involved with their own planning process and stick with it while it's still functional, if that makes sense.
Makes complete sense. So you talk about overwhelm, being a mom, a business owner, neurodiverse, ADHD. What did life look like before you started a shift, before things started to change in your life?
So if you can imagine, the best way I can think to describe it is, if you can imagine a ball of wool that a cat's had a field day with, you know, and it's completely tangled and all that sort of thing. That was my brain, essentially, and my whole life, really, and nothing much got done. And of course, as you get older and, you know, new things come along. So the kids came, and I was working at the time, and then started my business, and just, you know, life as it is, it got more and more overwhelming. And it got to the stage where I was actually panicking most of the time, and really nothing was getting done. But with the kids especially, and with the business especially, and with my husband, you know, you have to, you can't settle into that panic. It's not an option. And what I used to do for myself, and that's from early school days, is I used to journal a lot. And back in the day, it was a very simple Dear Diary thing. And then I discovered Hello Kitty stickers, so I used to put that in as well. And just that for me became a very safe space to offload all of these worries and things and that. And then while I was on that sheet, again, it was paper, but it can be a screen, it really doesn't make a difference. But while I was, sort of offloading all of that gunk, basically, then my brain was freed up to actually have the productive thoughts. So then it was a case of, okay, this is, all these things I'm worried about is probably not going to happen. But what do I need to get done just in case, so what would be the most sort of important things? So then I just carried on writing. So that started then bringing out a process. And obviously that's a real simple way of putting it. But, and then I scribbled out and I did all sorts of things. And I slapped a sticker on the side to make me feel better. And what I found, though, over a course of, days and weeks, and, you have bad days and that's fine. But what I was finding is that slowly, and I actually can't pinpoint an actual moment of an aha for me. It was other people that did. My kids, they were getting fed on time kind of thing. Keith, my husband, was sort of like, okay, thanks for getting this or doing this and doing that. And so slowly things started to get done. And I realized that I wasn't lying awake all night worrying about the things that I had to do the next day, because I'd written them down in a place that I actually wanted to visit the next day, my planner, so to speak. And I am simplifying here, but my planner, and I had it all written down. But on the other side of it was I did what had to be done. And then the things that weren't super urgent, I got to the stage where it's okay. I wasn't going to beat myself over the back with a big stick if I didn't get something done, because life happens, and white space in your schedule is a necessary thing. It actually is. People get scared of the white space, but it is actually a necessary thing because life does happen. And, so yeah, anyway, so that was a very long answer to your question.
No, it's good. It's good. So you say mindset is everything.
Yes. Yeah,
How do you define your mindset? How do you define that mindset in practical terms for your clients? How do you lead them through this journey?
So mindset is basically exactly what it says. It's how we look at something. And in very basic terms, if you wake up in the morning, you've slept through your alarm, you bang your toe on the corner of the bed as you're getting out of bed, you find that your decent shirt is not ironed, so you get the next decent one that's not as quite ironed on, and then you squeeze toothpaste all over it by mistake. The way you look at that will set the tone for your whole day. So, that's the real simple way of putting that. And it's not about being happy positivity. I'm sorry, I'm not one of those people. I used to be one of those people, but I realized that was also, you have to find the balance. So, positivity is great, and having a good mindset is great, but also accepting that things are not perfect. Again, we go back to things are not perfect. For me, that has become a big part of having a healthy mindset. So knowing what is possible and what isn't possible within a certain time frame, for example, whether you're planning a project or just your day, or you have an hour free and you've got so much to do. It's not about being, oh yes, we can do this, yes, and keep positive. And if you're not positive, you're not going to get it done. That's not realistic. It's more of a deeply inner personal thing. It's like a knowing that you have, and it does take time to cultivate that. You will have your natural enthusiasm for things, and you'll also have your natural I don't feel like doing stuff, and it's finding a balance in between there, and to have a mindset for certain things, and then just basically carrying it over and giving yourself grace when you don't have a good mindset as well, if that makes sense. It's okay not to be okay. And that in itself is a mindset, because you're not going to, again, lay all this blame and guilt on yourself for having an off day, So that happens. Part of a lot of, actually, especially with women any age, really, anyone who's sort of left school, but especially women, like you and I with kids, we have our business, we have all these different things that happen. And, you wake up one morning and it's just like, I just don't feel like it. I just don't. I need a day. I need a day. And instead of berating yourself and sort of trying to get the super positivity up, no, you can do it. No, you can do it. No, don't do it. It's okay. Look at your list then. You look at your planner again. We go back to the planner. Look at your plan. What is the most important things that have to be done? If anything, do those things and then give yourself the day. And then you can change your mindset completely, because you're giving yourself a timeout to do whatever you want to do, lie in bed and watch Netflix, or, I sit and play with stickers on all day long, and ink and things, whatever, sort of kind of blows your hair back. Those happen for a reason, a reset. It's a reset day. And generally what happens is when you wake up the next morning, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be super, super excited for the day, because you had a rest day. And a rest day doesn't have to be a weekend. Just telling you this, it doesn't have to be a weekend. It can be a day just for you. It can be an hour. Don't let it go longer than a week, because then you're kind of going to get into a bit of trouble with your responsibilities. But, it's about, a mindset is not just about being super positive. That's what I'm trying to say. It's about being human and not going to each extreme where you are, pedal to the metal kind of thing, and you're just going to do it to the detriment of your health or your mental health or whatever. Or you're going to just say, right, that's it, I'm not doing anything for 6 weeks, which is also not good for your mental health. And it's also, so it's about just giving yourself a timeout, and from there, it's so, because you're in such a good place then, because you're being kind to yourself. I talk a lot, but yeah, I get very excited about this stuff, because I've been there, Tammy. I have been there. I've been into the lowest of lows before, and I've been to the highest of highs, and I really prefer being somewhere in between, where it's more of a steady sort of going on, giving myself grace. It's So mindset from there is how you approach things. And then you can have different mindsets for different things, so different areas of your life. But it starts with generally and really, I believe, being kind to yourself, not being self-indulgent, but just giving yourself grace, Yeah.
Now, you mentioned guilt as one of the things that women struggle with. Okay, so I'd see that as one of the most common mindset blocks. So are there any others that you see? And then with regards to that, with the women that you see and coach, how do you begin to untangle those? How do you begin to help them get through those moments?
That's a very good question. The second one. So let's do the first one first. So guilt is a big one. And please don't think I'm excluding the men here. I'm really not. It's just that I am a woman, and I just feel I'm better qualified to speak to women. But everybody suffers with guilt. Everybody. Men, women, kids, everybody suffers with guilt. And the guilt, I think, is one of the major ones, but it's looking where that guilt comes from. And that's where those other things that you were just saying, now, what are the other things? One of the major things, and I think in a different way it happens for men, but I'm going to focus on women here, so is comparison. We compare ourselves to our mothers, our mother-in-laws, our sister-in-laws and sisters, friends, people in our church, I've got people in my mind when I think about, women that I know and love in church who seemingly do everything really well. And I'm like, okay, well, I hate cooking, you know, and they don't judge me, but I judge me.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a very like sort of simple way of putting it, but you know, I mean, it's true what they say, comparison is a thief of joy. It really, really is. So everything is linked though. So what we tell ourselves in our inner self, in our head, I call it the little brain, our subconscious brain, which has got a very valid reason for being there, but it does overcompensate. You know, so it does. Yeah, it's trying to protect us in all ways. But you know, good healthy fear is okay and all that sort of thing. But also what it does is from back in our childhood days, whatever we heard around us, and it doesn't matter whether it was directed at us as children or just in our environment or even on the TV or, you know, it takes it as truth. And it will build on that. And you wouldn't even be aware of that as you grow into an adult, but all of your experiences will lead up to where you are now. And guilt is one of the major plagues on this earth, I really do think. And it's formed by so many different things. And I think getting to the root of what's behind the guilt is actually the main thing, because once you get rid of that, you know, so it's like that whole the shoulds, you know, you should do this, I feel I should do this, thingy does that, so I should do that, you know. And the word should in that context should be deleted from the world in every language, because it just, you know, and it brings on guilt and things like that. So going on to the second part of your question, how do you begin to untangle that? And I know this is going to sound funny because I've been talking so much, but it's actually about listening. A huge part of what I do in a coaching session is listen. And listening through silences as well. When I first began coaching, so I first qualified in NLP and life coaching and everything back in 2012, I think, or 2013 or something. And jumped straight in, you know, like, I got my certificate, you know, I can do this. And then every time there was a silence, I would then jump in with a prompt or with a, you know, whatever. And I very quickly realized, actually not that quick because I'm not that smart, but I very quickly realized that the silences say more than the talking in most cases, in a lot of cases. So a lot of the first couple of sessions, it really will be just sitting with someone and just giving them a safe space, giving that person a safe space. So I love rules, my rules, because I don't like uncertainty in conversations, basically. So I will sort of put those things up front and I'll say, look, this is a safe space. I don't know squat, okay? I am just like a talking doll here, really. You can talk to me like your dear diary right now because you need to just talk. Because, I mean, I don't know about yourself, Tam, but how many times has someone asked you like a question and you haven't even thought about why you feel that way? You know, and it's difficult, you know. So, yeah, silence is a good thing as well. And then, you know, it varies from person to person because everyone is different. So I don't have I love the way you mentioned it one day, this cookie cutter approach. I don't have that. I kind of take each person as an individual. And but there's usually, no, not usually, actually, there's pretty much always a time. And it most often than not doesn't take very long, maybe 1 or 2 sessions where there's a switch, that something that changes, where there becomes a bit of a self-realization. And that's when I'll start to prompt, you know, or not prompt. Yeah, prompt is a good word. Yeah, prompt and maybe sort of suggest, okay, so what I heard you say was this. Have you looked at it like this? You know, and also getting to know the person. It starts off with creating a safe space for the person. They need to know safe spaces. And I learned that from you guys, actually. about safe spaces, and it changed everything. It really did. So, I create safe spaces for everyone all over, but with clients especially, it's especially important, because remembering also that coaching is not therapy. It's not therapy. I am not going to give you advice. I have to bite my tongue sometimes because I think I know it all, but I really, really don't. It's more about just, especially that first session and a half, depending, it's just.
So one of the things you mentioned there is the listening to understand instead of listening to react, which is a very big thing, because a lot of people will listen to react before they actually understand the full situation. So walk me through one of your favorite journaling prompts or tools that can help me move from stuck to strategy. And yes, I know this is like opening a can of worms because this is your happy place.
That's my jam. I don't have favorite journaling prompts per se. But one of the questions I like to ask myself, because I'm stuck all the time, is why am I stuck? Literally, why am I stuck? And journaling is a very big part of what I do with clients as well, because journaling is an amazing tool. It's the safest tool that you can have in your arsenal to develop yourself as a person professionally and everything in between. I do advise to have a safe person, that in the event of they find it and destroy it, if you don't want it seen. The other thing is I also advise, and I've been doing it for about 7 years now, is I have 2 journals. I'm talking about the writing journals. I do advise, and I have used it myself for about 7 years now. It was before COVID times. Is I have and this is for my deep writing journals where nobody sees them. And I have a light journal and I have a dark journal. And because what was happening is I love to journal and I love to read my journals. But when I was going through a down time or into a slump or thing, and it was all in one journal, then I didn't want to necessarily read about that stuff again. I just didn't. So when I'm having a bad day, or if I'm I need to rant a bit or sob a bit or whatever the case is, I write in my dark journal. When that journal's finished, I actually burn it. Because it's actually it's a very I only do it because I don't want to read it again kind of thing.
Purge journal.
I've purged it out and get rid of it. So my light journals is where I just put all my weird and wonderful musings and journaling things and all that sort of thing. So that's the first thing I do. And then the second thing is if you're stuck in whatever area of your life that you're in, just literally, but you need to write it out. So you take a clean page and you just write, why am I stuck? And then it's having a conversation with yourself. That's the essence and the core of journaling, the way I see it, and it works for me. So, what am I going to do? But in terms of what we're talking now is you have a conversation with yourself. It's just a written conversation. I don't worry about punctuation. I don't worry about grammar. I don't worry about spelling. I don't worry about handwriting. Okay, I do worry about it. No, I don't. But it's almost like a stream of consciousness journaling, but you are answering those questions. And whatever comes up for you as you're writing these things, why am I stuck? Well, I'm just feeling a bit bleh. Why are you feeling bleh? And you literally just carry on writing, and you will be amazed what you will actually uncover with that. And a lot of that can be brought to a coaching session and reflected on, but more often than not, it actually doesn't need to be, because a revelation has come through from that journaling. Excuse me. And it's private journaling, so it's you and your thoughts. I mean, who better, so that's one of I do have a sort of book of prompts and an arsenal of prompts and things like that. I really do. I've been collecting prompts for years. So, I do have those. But the very basic one is, and even in the morning when I do my morning pages, I do morning pages. So in the morning pages, and the first thing I do is, hi, good morning. How are you today? And if I feel blah, I'm like, okay, I feel blah. Why do you feel blah? Blah, blah, blah. Why do you feel good? Oh, I'm giving myself a Netflix day. Ooh, yay. Yeah. I don't know if that answers.
Yeah, no, it does. It does completely. So let's talk
Really?
systems now.
Right.
What does simple systems that support your life actually look like in the real world setting? Or for you, what does a simple system look like that you can put in place? I know you've mentioned putting things of importance down. Where do
Yeah.
you start defining those? How do you start understanding what's actually important and what's not? How do you get through the weeds?
So I would say, so for me, mine has been, 54 years of getting to where I am now, which is still, a complete mess, but I'm happy to help other people. But, in a, outside of a coaching session, if I was just chatting to someone, for example, that would be, yeah. So if I was going to suggest to someone, if I was just having a conversation with a friend, what I would say to them is get a journal, get a notebook, nothing fancy. You do not want a fancy one because you do not want to write in it then. So I use composition notebooks. I love composition notebooks because the paper's crinkly, all that. But just any notebook, but you don't want to do it on bits of paper. You do want to keep it all together. And then yeah, I mean, I love what you said there. How do you sort through the weeds? How do you weed your brain garden, your mind garden? That's actually, I like that. I'm going to write. Actually, you write that down because I have got a pen, but yeah, I'm concentrating. So exactly, yeah, that's actually brilliant, Tam. So if you think of your mind as a garden, so how do you weed a garden? You first got to look and know what is weeds and what is good, because sometimes plants look like weeds and they're actually good. So you want to actually look into your thoughts and have your thoughts. Again, you need to have them out of your brain. So you need to brain dump it out, basically. You need to just, what are my weeds? Is that really a weed? So write the stuff down. It's all about writing it down. Whether you do it digitally, a lot of people have online journals. I have an app as well that I use. If I don't have a pen and paper and I have an emergency thing, and I can voice note. You can voice note yourself these things and transcribe it. I mean, it doesn't matter the form that you use or the way that you do this. Capture your thoughts, and a lot of this comes from David Allen's Getting Things Done method, which is a huge part of my system. I love that you call the system. My system is you need to capture everything first, and then once you've captured everything out. So actually, in my planner, and I can actually send you some pics, but I won't. But I could. I actually have sections called inbox, and when I get and again, digitally or analog, let's just assume that it's always both, because it is. But when I get a new anything, a thought, an email, a WhatsApp, a prayer request, Mom, can you do this? Babe, can you do that? I write it in my inbox. So the inbox is basically that little post-it note that used to sit next to my desk, but I have it all together. And then in the inbox, when I've got time, so I try not to leave it over 24 hours or 48 hours if I've got a lot written down. And then I'll just go through it. And then you go through those areas and you go, right, what can I delegate? What can I delete? What can I put for someday maybe? That goes into another section. And I know it's about keeping everything in the same place. And you can have your designated places. And there's some really great apps for the GTD method, getting things done. There really is. I personally use paper because I incorporate the bullet journal method as well. So I index everything. So that's how I find stuff as well. But just on the very surface of it, brain dump. You need to get everything weeded out of your thoughts. And you're going to take the good stuff with there as well. But then when you can look at it, whether it's on the screen or on a piece of paper, then you're going to be able to see, okay, the obvious stuff, yes, that's a weed, get rid of it, or, whatever, or get your kids to do it, or whatever the case is. And then you've got the stuff that you're not sure if it's actually a weed or if it's actually, a good plant. And then you can actually question each one. Okay, so what is this? What would it bring me? Why would I want to do this? Or why did I think it was a good idea? Or whatever the case is. And again, coming back to being kind to yourself, you don't have to do those bits straight away because you've taken the important stuff out already. So you've already done the quick, okay, that's important, that's not. So if it's not that important, it's, that it came up to you straight away is important, then it doesn't need to be sorted out straight away, because, you know, brain dumping can be a quite an intense thing. I've done them with clients before, I must say, because it can be quite intimidating to, whoa, you know, where do you even start? You start with the first word.
Yes.
Basically, you eat the elephant like that, you know, you eat the tiny bite first. But I do have, they're called trigger worksheets. So I've got trigger worksheets for business and business things, for household stuff. I love tracking stuff, and it's another part of what I teach, or not teach, coach, or encourage, or whatever, suggest, is I've got, okay, it's going to sound over the top. It's because I hate cooking, and not so much anymore because, you know, the kids are older. But when the kids were younger, I had my freezer inventory list. I had my grocery cupboard, you know, and it was a bit of PT to put it in place. But once it was there, what a breeze. I had my grocery list that I used to photocopy every week and just tick, 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 go and see what's there. And it was, you know, once it's set up, and it took so much of that anxiety off me. And then I would meal plan, and I used to do 5 weeks of meal plans, like, and rotate them.
Yeah.
And it just took that. It's about taking that anxiety away. So it's a very simple way of putting it. But yeah, so that was a weed, but I had to deal with it.
I know that weed very well as a mom. When you ask people what do they want for supper, and they go anything, and you go, well, anything is not an option.
Yes. So the thing is not to have them ask you. It's just to produce, you know, like at the kennels, you know, so it's your kids and your husband that you go eat, and they just eat it. That's the sweet spot. Yeah. Perfect. So yeah. So brain dumping, that's how you can start it.
Perfect. So how do you balance structure with flexibility? I mean, you've mentioned you're neurodiverse, you struggle with those types of things. So clients who might be a bit resistant or rigid in schedules, how would you approach them?
Again, it's getting to the heart of what's behind that rigidity, behind that perfectionism. And again, I can only draw on my own experiences. I don't like talking about clients. I won't. Never. But for myself, I felt so out of control as an undiagnosed ADHD child and teen and young adult. I was in my 30s when I was diagnosed, that everything seemed so chaotic. And so I realized after being diagnosed, and I did some research, and, you know, because I'd like to know these things and what's going on with my brain, and I've got a picture in my mind of how it looks, and, you know, which is not, you know, scientific at all, but it works for me. But it's working for your own self, and that's again what I help people with. So I worked out for myself, and it took time, is how I can be comfortable being uncomfortable. That's the one thing. How I can be uncomfortable with changes, unexpected changes in my schedule. And that's where I learned about white space. So keeping white space, and, you know, for emergencies. And then if there's no emergencies, then you suddenly have this gift of a little bit of time, you know, and you can, you know, do whatever, or put another load of laundry in, or do what, you know, you're always going to have these tasks that need doing. So, you know, I should do a video. I'll do a video on my channel or something. But you know, I used, especially as a when my kids were younger, and I had the business and all that sort of thing. So I always had a list of tasks that kind of had to be done on a semi-regular basis if I had time for them. So when those pockets of time came up, then, you know, if I was feeling generous to the family, then I would do those. And if I wasn't, then I'd do something for me. Kidding, not kidding. But be kind to yourself. But yeah, so, you know, it's not look, here's the thing. It's not an overnight solution. There is no overnight solution. You've got to undo however many years of mind conditioning that yes, your external circumstances and environment, but essentially yourself, without knowing, have put on yourself. So it depends a lot on the willingness of someone who wants to embrace change, which in and of itself is a hard thing for someone who loves control. And, you know, loving control is, you know, perfectionism, so things have to be perfect. And so it is a process. So, you need to really want that change, however scary it may be. What I do for my clients is I give them, again, a safe space and support. You don't have to do this alone. You can make positive changes. And yes, it's going to be painful, but what isn't? But it's not going to be like training to climb Kilimanjaro. And I'm saying that because I've just seen my friend walk past and they did that earlier this year. Crazy. But anyway, but yeah, so it is going to be painful, but it's supported pain. Can I put it like that? Yeah.
Yep.
And it does take time, but the length of time is based on the severity of the perfectionism tendencies and things, as well as the willingness of the person to want to try something new, and we try different things. And if it doesn't work, we try something else. If it doesn't work, I'm not going to go, you're a bad person, you failed. No, it doesn't work that way because, we're all different.
Yeah, that sounds good. It's that making a cup of coffee, and as you turn the kettle on, you realize you need to do a load of dishes in the dishwasher and quickly going to go pack that, and then realizing, oh, wait a minute, but the washing machine's right below, let me put a load on, and then going, oh, wait, I haven't transferred to the tumble dryer, and you start doing all of that, and coffee's still sitting there waiting.
And you still haven't had your coffee.
I get that completely. I do that regularly. It's one of my flaws.
Yes. So my encouragement to that is the world is not going to end if the dishwasher doesn't go on and the tumble dryer doesn't, the laundry and everything. Have your coffee. Have your coffee. You'll be so much better off for other people. In fact, I could actually say it like this. You're being entirely selfish by not having your coffee first because, you know that you feel happier with it. And so,
Very, very intuitive there. Yes, coffee makes the world go round.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yeah. Yeah. And be kind of.
How do you use the core framework? So your body, mind, soul, spirit. How do you practically in your sessions, especially around productivity and goal setting, how do you implement that?
Okay, so I love the core method. I when you guys introduced me, I was like, this is so epic. I love acronyms. I've got to tell you, I love acronyms. And I'll be straight up with you. I'm not in my office. I had to go look them up again just now because I need the prompts. I need that. But then I remembered as soon as I saw it. And you're talking about, the four: conditioning, observation, resilience, enlightenment. So I love that because it can be applied to so many different ways of coaching, whether you're doing fitness, whether you're doing, which is, obviously what it's there for as well, fitness, whether you're talking about whatever. So for myself, when I saw this, however many weeks ago, whenever it was, it so immediately falls in line with how I was trained back in the day and the things that I've learned since then. So when you talk about conditioning, and of course, let Rolls can cringe because it's got nothing to do with what he does. But when I talk about conditioning, it's actually about finding out how the person's mind has been conditioned to the way it's thinking. And that's where the observation comes in as well. So those two kind of go hand in hand because we need to unpack that a little bit. And again, it comes with the talking and listening and the spaces. And then it also comes with the resilience. Now I know resilience training, and you need that in every area of your life, whether you're doing it with actual resistance bands or you're doing it with, CrossFit, or you're doing it with your mind. You need to build up that resilience. It is a muscle and things are going to go wrong. And I'm very, very, very upfront with my clients about that. You're going to have bad days. And that's where being kind to yourself comes in because it's, even if you think about, and I know it says resilience, but if you think about the resistance band, if you think about anything elastic and you stretch it and you stretch it and you stretch it and you stretch it and there's no break, it's going to snap. And if we don't give ourselves that kindness that we would give other people, I mean, we give it freely. and it doesn't matter. Man, woman, child, doesn't matter. Dog, cat. We give it freely to other people. Why can't we give it to ourselves? Because you need to have that doing back so that you can reset and again carry on. So there is the whole thing with change, and it is scary. And that is another part where resilience will come in as well, because it is scary. Change is scary. Believe me, I know. I'm with you, and I'm there. So a big part when we get to that stage of what I do is literally walking with a person, and listening, but not letting them sink into a pity party. Oh, I had a bad day. Woe is me. Blah, blah, blah. That's fine. You need to get that out. But then, okay, then how are you going to do that differently? Or what could you have done to change that? Is there a different way of looking at it? Or did you journal it? What did your journal tell you? Basically. So that would come, so that it builds that resilience muscle, because we do have to build that muscle with anything. It's a habit that you've got to build of thinking that way. Again, mindset is a muscle as well, which then brings you to enlightenment, because then once you realize who you are, and you actually then can start to love yourself properly.
Yeah.
And not in a conceited way, and not in a boastful way, but for who God made you to be.
Yeah.
We all have things that we do better and worse than those around us. And that's why we work well as teams, because, nobody does everything well. Nobody can. And if they do, they're lying to themselves. Then send them to me. I give them a little Nikki dose here, But so when you it's a beautiful thing, because I know for myself, I have been there and I'm still there. It's a journey. It really is a journey. There's no destination. But I'm a lot more aware of who I am now than what I was even 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. And when you get to that, that's ching, Vicky the Balkan.
No, really awesome. And I mean, one of the things I love about you is you're authentic. You are who you are. You have a sense of humor next to nothing. And even in your fun facts, you say you're a Jedi master in gifts and sarcasm, which is my Nikki. I love it about you. So how does that play a role in your coaching?
Well, I mean, what you see is what you get. The only difference is when I am in a coaching session, I have to prep myself, because clearly I'm a talker and I get excited, and I'm ADHD. And it was one of the major things that I practice is the listening. So it's almost it's before your time, but there was a movie with Sylvester Stallone called Over the Top. From the 90s or the 80s or something, and he was an arm wrestler, and he was a really nice guy, and he had his little son with him, and it's a lovely, go and watch it. If you can, go and watch it. I mean, it's soppy as, but it's really, really, it's fun, and at the end you're like, yes. But anyway, but when he's in the wrestling, the arm wrestling competitions, he switches his hat and he turns it behind. And it stuck with me for all this time, and I often go back and watch it also. It's Sylvester. But he switches it behind, and he actually explains to his son, when I'm in the competitions, I'm in it to win. And he switches his hat, and he doesn't say this, but it tells his brain that you're in competition mode. And so that muscle memory and all that sort of thing comes into play there. So I do a similar thing, because I have to, because I am prone to I get so excited. When I'm coaching, it's not like that. And it's so I prep myself before sessions, and I literally turn the cap around and I go into it. So apart from that, I'm pretty much the same. I don't have so much potty mouth, obviously, with clients. But yeah. But the listening, for me, listening is everything. Listening to hear is everything, because it is. Yeah, spent years not being listened to and not being heard, and it's needed. So I have to sort of mentally and almost physically do that thing with a hat. And that's, I use that analogy in my head all the time. You know, there we go. I'm in competition. No, but yeah, got my coaches.
So one of the best things I remember was you used to have a little cabin. We used to sit there, and the cabin was the safe space. The little Wendy house was the safe space. What happened in the Wendy house stayed in the Wendy house.
Stayed in the Wendy house. Yeah.
When clients have that first session with you in your proverbial Wendy house,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What surprises them the most about the work you do? And what do they usually say after that first session?
Oh, I didn't think you could keep so quiet. Yeah, I'm not kidding. No. Like I said, I do love to, I like everybody to know exactly what's going to happen and what to expect and what they can take away from this. And so the safe space thing it's a hugely important thing to me. I mean, it's not just with coaching, it's with my relationships with people, my friendships, my husband, my kids. You know, I've said to kids back in Benoni in the church there, you know, the kids there, you know, I was like an agony aunt to a lot of them, the girls and the boys, and they knew that I would keep their secrets unless it was life-threatening, and then I would tell them, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to, you know. And it's that, because that for me, that confidentiality, that safeness, that non-judgmental, that comparison or anything space is so vitally important. It is so vitally important. And for me, that is everything. And if a person, for whatever reason, doesn't feel that with me, then I will find someone for them, you know, because for me, that is the most important thing, is the space to be heard and to feel safe, you know. And people say that they didn't realize I was so passionate about that. And also that, you know, that I can keep quiet.
This has been such a wonderful time, and it's actually sad that it now like comes to an end. So just as a bit of an outro here, Nikki doesn't just coach productivity, she lives it. You know, she's not the kind that burns you out. It's the kind that clears the fog and quiets the noise and helps you hear your own rhythm again. And that's what Nikki helps you with. So if you want, and if you have literally connected with Nikki through this podcast, what I'd recommend is just taking a look at the links in the system here and booking a session with her, starting from there, having that first one and seeing where it leads from there. Nikki is awesome to work with, and she'll help you just clear that clutter and help you find where your starting block is. So thank you very much just for joining us here today. And Nikki, thank you so much for joining me. It's been
thank you so much. Pleasure. Oh, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much. And thanks to you Enrolled. Really just love you guys. Mwah. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us with this episode with Tammy and Nikki. I hope that was insightful and encouraging. Something I love about Nikki is just her nature, just her integrity, her bubbliness, but also just the way she will speak truth into your life. And so if this episode spoke to you on any kind of level, you can book a coaching session with Nikki on our website. So www.live4dnow.com. And you'll find a bunch of our other providers there, but you can go and look at what specific needs you have. But if this episode specifically with Nikki resonated with something in you, go ahead and book a session with Nikki and begin that journey of becoming uncluttered, becoming focused, or just for, hey, how do I set some goals for going forward? Book that session with Nikki today. All the links are below, and we look forward to seeing you guys in future episodes. Alternatively, you could also join us in our membership. We have a school community. There's free courses in there. There are some other providers that you can chat to. There'll be daily challenges. We have a weekly coffee time. There's going to be additional training and all sorts of things that you can get involved with for a very small price in our school community. All the links are below. Check it out. We'd love to continue this journey with you, and we hope to see you in future episodes. Take care.